Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today we're going to talk about balancing rest versus reps as we quickly approach the fourth quarter of 2025. How can we have that balanced attack with both at the same time? So with that being said, let's get it started. All right, guys, welcome to episode number 58 of the Diamond Discussion. I am pumped for this subject right here because it's just one of those that I have been in the trenches on the last few months. So I've gotten the really awesome opportunity, man, to play with the Nashville Brewers. And actually, at the time of this recording, it's the night before the championship series. And I hope I'm able to come back to you guys next week and let you know that we won. But regardless, we're here in the championship series, so we got a 3-game series coming up Thursday, Saturday, and if necessary on Tuesday. So depending on when you're catching this, wish us luck. We'll see how it goes. I'm pumped though. I'm sure I'll be on the bump at some point. If not, I'll be at the bottom of the order, usually somewhere around the 9 hole and playing some right field. So pumped up about that opportunity. But with that being said, you guys, I've gotten the opportunity, man, to play some pretty solid, level baseball at the age of 30. And it has been an incredible experience. It's really been about 3 months. 3 months, and pretty much played 2 games a week for the last 3 months. And sometimes on the back end, it's felt like, basically we've been running like 4 or 5 games every like 12 days. So it's been a haul, but it's been a fun one, and it's winding down right now. But all that being said, it has provoked me to talk with you guys about rest versus reps and kind of how to have a balanced attack, if you will, with both of those, because I think it's a very smart way to, I would say, prolong a career if you can do those in a great, just strategic way. And I do a lot of online training right now with baseball players. I've got some softball players coming on board as well that I get a chance to train and teach. And we talk a ton about reps and rest and how to get both done the right way. And so I'm going to give you guys, maybe 9 or 10 pointers on just kind of how to go through this the right way. And depending on where you are in your career, 1 or 2 or 3 of them may resonate more than the others. But I'm going to throw them all to you here today, and we'll see where this goes. So with that being said, the first one here is injury prevention. Okay, so this is kind of where things start, right? If you're doing things the right way from the jump, you're already putting yourself in the catbird seat in terms of making sure that you give yourself a shot to not get injured, right? Because we don't want to. We really, guys, we don't want to be getting out there day one getting injured because of something that we could have avoided with our prevention at the beginning, right? So with that being said, think about our proper warm ups. Okay, so there's ways to warm up the muscles and the joints to make sure that whatever activity we're performing is going to be at tip top shape. Okay, and so for some of you, that warm up is a quick 10 to 15 minute, stretching, maybe a jog here or there, whatever, and you're good. But for some of us, right, maybe it's 30 to 45 minutes, closer to an hour of just, we're in Zen mode. We got the music going. We're really kind of laying out that, full blown, stretching and warm up progressional. Like again, I play with guys basically from age 30 to 45, 40, 49, somewhere in there. And everybody kind of has their own plan at the ball field. And some guys can show up half an hour before the game, stretch a little bit, throw a little bit, and they're good to go. Others, they're there an hour and 15 minutes or so before the game, and they're really kind of getting things going all throughout, right? That 65 to 70 minutes or so before we have that plate meeting, and then we're off and running. So again, man, just think about warming up your body, right? And speaking of your body, we want to listen to our body throughout, right? If we got to be able to recognize, pains, any early signs of discomfort. Where are we on those types of things, right? If something's uncomfortable and it doesn't feel like it's of the norm, then that is a cause to pause, right? Now, Let's talk about that for 2 seconds. If that's happening in the early goings and you haven't done anything at all over the last few months, well, maybe that's just soreness of a muscle that you haven't worked out a ton in a while, right? So that's okay. Like that's pretty normal. But if we are, a few weeks, maybe a couple months in or whatever, and we're feeling like something's off, maybe we tweaked something, then we need to listen to that. We need to hear it, listen to it, and understand where we need to go from there, right? So listen to our body, and then from there we take a more of a gradual progression, right? I would say, when I love long tossing, and this is where I like to talk about progressionals more than anything. When we long toss, man, it's good to just kind of every 15 feet, every 15 to 25 feet or so, we're taking that progressional on and we're making sure that our arm is getting fully loose. We're really stretching those muscles out. But in terms of our getting our whole body right, a gradual progression is a great way to feel out where our body is going to be and where it needs to be, in terms of mid-season form and then at the end of the season too, right? Because we know most of us at the end of seasons, we're not going to be like we're not going to be in mid-season form, right? We're going to have some dings, we're going to have some bruises here or there. Everybody is, right? You don't really get to the end of the season without that a lot of times. And so because of that, you want to make sure that you're still working on that gradual progressional, making sure that we kind of increase and decrease the intensity of the workouts and things of that nature too, so that we're fully comfortable throughout the entire stretch there, right? The last thing on injury prevention that I want to share with you, man, is just proper mechanics, right? This is one of those where I'm like, yo, you gotta be able to do the right thing the right way all the time. This is not something that you can really compromise on at all. Okay, so a lot of times I've seen guys and gals sometimes, but mostly the fellas, man, we try to do really pitchers specifically, right? If something's hurting, we'll try to just go to this other arm slot, right? Just because we can, right? Just because we have that youthfulness and we can do it, and it may work for a while, but over time it's really doing some damage to that elbow and not putting us in a good scenario for success. And so again, proper mechanics, and it starts at a young age, right? A young age with hopefully solid coaches at the recreation level teaching us the proper mechanics, the way to throw, the way to run, the way to field a ball, the way to swing, bat, all of that jazz, right? If we have the proper mechanics, then that's going to keep the most integrity for us in terms of us being able to do the things the right way through our body or for our body, rather. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, I talk a ton about performance optimization for my guys that I train online. It's such a to me, it's such a critical way to be able to develop your game, but also just thinking big picture. How can I maximize the reps without compromising the rest? And I think that's a big key here when we talk about reps versus rest. Really, this conversation is more in the vein of reps and rest, right? Not them going head to head, but them on the same team, being able to coexist, that type of thing. And one of the things I would say is a balanced set of training. I think I've just alluded to this as well, but like, again, some days we need to be high intensity. We need to be high intensity, and maybe it's not the amount of reps, it's just the quality of reps at a high level. And then the other days we need a low intensity, right? Maybe it's more reps, but just at a lower level. Maybe that's the workout, right? Maybe we don't need to max out on our workout today. Today may be more about just low intensity, just getting in there, getting the form, and feeling good about that portion of what we're doing. Whether that's again in the gym, whether that's out on the track or the streets if we're running, or if we're just simply honing the craft in the batting cages or the bullpen or in the field getting reps that way too, right? So again, thinking of that for sure. Avoid overtraining. Okay, that can be one of the major, to me, one of the major misconceptions about the game of baseball and softball is that you have to play it year round to be great at it. And that's just a fallacy, all right, in my opinion. You don't have to play it year round. You got to be able to say, hey, okay, I'm all in for this period, and then I'm giving my body the rest it deserves, right? It deserves and that it needs. And so being able to train hard when the lights are on, and then shut that off when it needs to be shut down too, right? Strategic rest. Now this is critical too. So I think about strategic rest in a couple of different ways, right? Depending on where you are in your journey. If you're me at 30 years old, and I'm playing more, I guess, adult rec league, I guess, if you will, a lot of us feel like it's more than just a poo-poo rec league. I mean, we got some really solid guys in this league that they can hit, they can throw, they can catch, they can run, they can do a lot of things still at a very high level. But regardless of the level of competition you're playing at, the rest that you get is important. And when you're able to kind of balance, okay, I'm going to take a rest day here based on this game schedule that I have right now, or if you're in the off season, what do I need to do leading up to the beginning of the season? I like to say the 6 weeks prior to the beginning of the season is just, that's grind mode. That's crunch time. Like, we're dialed in. For 6 weeks, we need to be laser focused on what we want to do. And that doesn't mean high intensity laser focus, but that is genuinely, we're dialed in. We've dialed in rather on what we want, and we have a very specific game plan of how we want to do that. And when I think about that game plan, that leads me also to what I like to call nutrient timing, right? Are we maximizing the amount of proteins and carbs to be able to fuel the workouts and the recovery that we want to have, so that once the game time comes, we're prepared and we're ready to rock and roll. All right. So that's number 2, performance optimization. Number 3 here, before we take a quick break, is age and development. Okay. So I'm going to talk about this really briefly. For you younger guys and gals out there, you can absolutely simply focus on emphasizing your skill development and just simply enjoying the game, right? Like, you can go all in on your reps. Obviously you've got to rest, but you can go all in on those reps, man, and feel good about it, because you can just go for days on end and not have any breaks, which is fine for a little while, but then obviously working it in. But really, that development is so important, right? You got to be able to develop the skill set to be able to get to where I am now as a 30-year-old, to where certain things are just simply like riding a bike. And so now, you older guys like myself, I guess I'm in that echelon these days. But you older guys, though, maybe you don't need a 25 pitch bullpen 4 days a week. Maybe you need that twice a week or once a week right now. And you're okay with that. Like, you're good with that, because the rest is more of a priority right now for you than say getting those reps. Because one of the things that's like riding a bike for a pitcher is hitting your spots, right? You should be able to hit the outer half. You should be able to hit the inner half when you need to hit it, and go from there, right? And one of the things I would tell the younger people out there, man, is to avoid specialization, I would say, right? Avoid specializing in a certain position in a certain sport, okay? And doing that only, like that. Don't allow that to be the only thing that you do. Go play other sports, okay? And if you're not one to where you're like, I don't want to play anything else, fine, go play other positions. Do something else that is not using the exact same muscle group every single time. Okay? Don't go out here and be a young DH hitter, right? Only, right? Don't just go up there and hit only, right? You can be, if you're a big guy, if you're a big girl, go play the corners. If you got speed, hop in the outfield. If you got a can of the arm, hop up the middle, hop behind the plate. Something else other than going to be a DH or a PO. That's what I would say on that front. So anyway, it sounds like rest is of the essence, and my voice deserves a little bit of rest. So with that being said, guys, let's take a quick break for commercial. I'll be right back. We're going to jump into numbers 4, 5, and 6 with you and we'll keep this show on the roll. Here we go. Okay, guys, thank you for letting me give my voice a quick break right there. So we're jumping right back into this rest versus recovery, or shall I say rest and recovery show. And I'm going to start with number 4 here. Okay, so number 4 really is understanding that your position matters, and how do you how do you address your position? Okay, and so what I would say for you pitchers out there, we need to be tracking our pitch count. All right, we need to be tracking our velocity, and very specifically tracking our mechanics. Okay, those are 3 areas that we just simply cannot afford to not know where we are in those. Okay, so again, your pitch count, your velocity, and your mechanics as a pitcher are incredibly important things to track when it comes to getting rest and the reps, and how to balance both of those. All right. Now think about this from the perspective of a position player, right? In the reality here, guys, there's an extreme demand that comes with hitting and fielding and running. Okay, that's what you do as a position player, and so you've got to be able to do all 3 very well. And if you think about hitting specifically, there's very important mechanics that come with hitting the ball the right way. Therefore, there's just some muscle memory that has to be able to take place in the flow of your swing, being able to connect your upper body to your lower body, your hand-eye coordination, all of that jazz has to be in tune with itself to be able to really hit the ball at a high level, especially with the types of pitchers that I'm seeing on TV. I was just at a minor league baseball game, and these guys were humming the ball. I mean, they're ready for the majors already, pretty much. It seems like it's just when they're going to get their opportunity, right? But you're seeing guys in the minors, you're seeing guys at the collegiate level, guys at the high school level that are just bringing it. The Little League World Series is wrapping up right now this weekend, and these kids are throwing ridiculous numbers off the bump. Okay, so because of that, you got to be at your tip-top shape as a batter. Okay, fielding wise, you got to be able to throw from all arm slots as a middle infielder. You got to have a cannon as a third baseman. First baseman, you got to be able to stretch like nobody's business. And then the outfielders, you got to have speed. You got to be able to track the ball down, and you got to have an arm, right? So again, there's a lot that goes into that. And obviously you catchers, you know what you got to have. You got to be able to frame. You got to have the flexibility back there. You got to have the IQ of the whole field. You got to know everybody's position and where they should be at all times, right? So there's a lot that goes into it. And so because of that, right, you want to make sure that you're tracking, you're understanding what's required of me to be able to do all of these 3 things: hitting, fielding, and running at the highest of clips. Okay. And getting into that, I would suggest cross training. I suggest doing things that kind of promote the well-being of the positions that you're playing. Maybe that's some swimming. Maybe that's some cardio. Maybe that's getting in yoga. I personally don't find anything wrong. I do this once every other week or so. I go get up some jump shots, man, at the basketball court, and just I like to shoot, but I think that also just simply promotes activities that are not exactly what I'm doing, but it helps those muscle groups in a way that's not precisely, throwing off the bump or taking cuts or fielding, receiving fly balls, ground balls, those types of things. So it's just another fun way to stay active, right? But not be actually dialed in on the sport that we're focused on in that moment. The next one here, okay, is workload monitoring. How do I put this the best way? I would say that what we're trying to do here is that we're wanting to track those metrics, and it's again for pitchers. Yes, it's your pitch count, but even for you batters out there, we want to track that swing count. All right, track that swing count, because again, if we're working this action so much, right, going from high to low, leveling things off and really working those hips the way that we should, well, there's going to be a toll on certain body parts, right? Regardless of how mechanically sound you are, certain parts of your body are going to feel it more than others. Therefore, you need to know, okay, what is my limit in a day of reps? Can I go out and feasibly get 75 quality cuts in a day? Like, is that legit that can I do that in T work? Can I do that in front toss work or soft toss or whatever? What does that number look like? Okay. What is that number looking like for me? So tracking those metrics is incredibly important. And I say, obviously, it's 2025, guys. We got to use technology. I know that maybe Fitbit could be a thing of the past, but if you're like me and you're an Android, Samsung Galaxy Watch guy, use that in those apps. If you're like my wife and you're the Apple Watch goer, use that in its apps. But regardless of what you have, or maybe it's not even a Galaxy Watch or an Apple Watch, maybe you got something that's a little bit more inexpensive, I would say, and go and find some apps and things that you can use to track your progress, your heart rate. You're tracking all sorts of things about your body, your mechanics, all the stuff that you got going on there. Use the technology to your advantage to be able to track those metrics so that you can be able to be on the same page with your body as much as possible. So I would say that would be a big piece. Okay. The other one, kind of going in that progression or that same vein, analyze the trends that you see, right? Be able to recognize those patterns with your body. Am I okay? Fine. I'm taking 125 cuts a day. Yep, that's probably my limit. But also in a game setting as well, right? When do you find yourself physically falling off in a game, or at all? Do you, right? When do you find yourself losing mental focus? And then figuring out, okay, well, what do I need to do to stay mentally sharp for the rest of this ball game? From if the sixth inning is the inning that you find yourself just kind of dazing and picking daisies, if you will, then there's something that needs to take place for you so that you can get back on track, right? So analyze those trends, understand what those patterns are showing you, and it may not be anything that's wrong. You're also recognizing patterns that show that you're optimizing your performance, right? That show that, okay, you're at tip top shape. Midway through the game, you're at your best. And that's when the lights camera action time, and things are getting good, right? You're getting better as the game goes on, right? Versus potentially hitting a wall per se. All right. The last one here before we take a quick break is what I've kind of called here, and maybe some may call it something else, but I call it recovery techniques. Okay, I believe in active recovery. Engaging in kind of the low intensity activities, if you will, right? Be okay doing something in recovery that's going to ultimately give your muscles an opportunity to wind down, right? One of the things that I do after I go for a solidly long run is that I kind of walk it out afterwards. Maybe I walk a half a mile or a mile or even just maybe a small quarter mile after a longer run to, promote that wind down experience, right? Anything that can continue to generate some blood flow and kind of fine tune that muscle soreness and prepare for it, I think it's good for you. So active recovery is one of the ways that I believe that we can, focus on the recovery technique there. Another way is just simply stretching, right? Making sure that we improve that flexibility and getting that full range of motion going on that front. That's a big deal. Another one is the obvious, probably getting good sleep, right? Adequate rest is of the essence, right? If we can prioritize 7 to maybe 9 or 10 hours, 10 maybe to be too much, but either way, 7 to 9, 8 hours, I would say. 8 hours of sleep is what science has told us is a good benchmark to shoot for. And as athletes, I think that's pretty good, right? 16 hours a day of waking hours should be enough to have a full day, get some training in our respective sport, and still have a life elsewhere, right? So getting good sleep, getting a massage or some type of a chiropractor type deal in. Nothing wrong with that either. If you can't afford that type of thing, maybe it's just simply doing a massage at home, right? Whether it's girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, mom, dad, sister, brother, somebody, maybe digging in, getting some deep tissue work in there, doing it properly, obviously, if we're going to do that stuff at home. But, just making sure that, we're activating some of those muscles and relieve any type of, I would say tension that we have in the muscle groups. I know for me, man, my lower back is always it can always be tight, and you want to promote that relaxation, flexibility, and just looseness of the muscles there as well. The last thing is, it cannot be overstated, okay, is our nutrition. You got to hydrate, you got to carb it up, you got to protein it up, you got to do everything you got to do to make sure that your body can perform at the level that we want to be able to perform at. Because here's the reality, right? We can do all the workouts, we can get all the reps, we can even get the rest we need, okay? But if we're not feeding our body with the right nutrients, then a lot of that stuff can kind of be counteracted. So again, what we do in the kitchen, how we open the fridge, the freezer, the cabinet, just make sure, man, what we're looking at is something that we feel good that's going to help us, versus, take us two steps back. That's all I would say on that front. So anyway, let's take one more quick break. I'll come back at you guys with three more pieces. I hope this has been helpful for you thus far, and we'll wrap the show up after that. Be right back. All right, guys, we are back for the final time. I've got two more pieces here for you. I think I said I had three. I only got two. I had to combine a couple here. But the last two here are periodization and what I would like to just say simply mental fatigue, right? Being able to manage that too. But periodization is one thing that I think is one of those that kind of just things kind of blur together timeline wise. Okay. And so if you think about the way that the periods that we're in, I would say we're in off season, we're in preseason, we're in season, and we're postseason. Those are the four periods that I say we need to be able to divvy up our sports in. Okay. And when we're in the off season, right, we're simply trying to build a very strong, a very firm foundation of strength and conditioning, right? If we can build that out, that really can set the the whole deal for us to be successful in the preseason and in season, right? Because in the preseason, what we're trying to do there is we're trying to ramp things up, right? I just mentioned before, right? Those 6 weeks prior to the season beginning is our preseason time, pretty much, right? And we're trying to wrap things up, man, get things, fine tuned at this point, make those final tweaks and ratchet things up to an intensity level that is very, very close, if not beyond game speed type activities, with our base running or with our hitting or just IQ opportunities, right? Just doing all those things the right way, so that we can ultimately be prepared to be in season. And then when the in season time comes, now it's about maintaining and managing, right? We want to manage that fatigue. We want to maintain our fitness levels so that we can be able to withstand the duration of the season, right? Regardless of how long your season may be, a lot of us, we have to be able to be on virtually every night or every day that, that we get the opportunity to play, right? And so, obviously it's a team sport, so sometimes we're going to be off, but we can't really afford to be off body wise and preparation wise. We're going to go over some nights at the plate, right? Or as a pitcher, some nights you're going to just you're going to get rocked. right? And you're going to be out after, 2 1/3 innings, giving up 5 runs or something like that, right? So sometimes it's not your night, and that's part of it. But it can't not be your night because you didn't do what you needed to do in the off season or the preseason or even the days leading up to game day here in the middle of the season. All right, I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, so just managing and maintaining the things that you've already worked on so hard for in the off season, the preseason, is incredibly important once you're in the season and then in your postseason, right? Which is the 6 to 8 weeks right after the season's over. Right now, this is not off season yet. Okay, this is the 6 weeks, 8 week period there, right after things are over. This is a great time to just truly, truly emphasize that rest and that recovery. We do not want to come anywhere close to burnout. It is a real thing for people in baseball, softball, any other sports as well. We want to avoid burnout at all costs. And so the best way for us to do that is to prioritize that rest and that recovery immediately. Okay. It's okay not to touch a softball, baseball for a few weeks and be cool with that. Like don't worry about getting behind and all that stuff. Like you have that opportunity in your off season truly to again start reworking on some things and taking your lessons and going to your catching lessons or your hitting lessons or whatever to get things dialed back in. But rest and recovery is so critical. It's mission critical truly to our success, and it's mission critical specifically to our success long term, right? For those of you trying to play the game at a high level for a long time, not just for a good time, if you will, right? You got to be able to rest and recovery on schedule, which is postseason time. Okay. The last thing I got for you guys is managing that mental fatigue, and these are just some tips I was thinking about for coaches, man. Like, how do you do that throughout the season, or just what you're giving your players in the off season as well? Like, I think variety helps. We want to avoid boredom, right? Our brains are so intricate, and they're so impressive and all that. But sometimes we just get bored, right? And so we just got to be able to mix things up as a coaching staff to be able to give our players a variety of things to work on, a variety of things to do. And sometimes that just simply means you got to be creative in the way that you work things out in practice, or you work things out in your off-season stuff. And then breaks, providing those scheduled breaks in practice, providing those scheduled breaks in the off season where I know for me, I would give my softball team, a winter workout schedule, for about 4 or 5 weeks or so, leading up to our spring training weekend, which was kind of our kickoff weekend where we just kind of go in grind mode for about 48 hours. But the winter workout schedule, it had specific rest days involved, and those are great for our players, man, where they just get a chance to say, hey, today I am going to be about the rest. I'm going to not touch a bat. I'm not going to touch my glove. I'm not going to touch a ball. I'm going to rest. And that includes mentally resting as well. That doesn't mean trying to, do all the stuff and watch film and video. Take a break. For real. Like just legit rest. That's what you got to do. You know what I mean? And because again, you're going to have the other 5 to 6 days of the week to get those reps. Okay. Coaches, team building, prioritize it. Don't gloss over it. Make it a mission of yours to team build, because I will say this, in the years that I got an opportunity to coach travel softball, I found that team building became a piece that my softball players really enjoyed. And, for them, they only saw each other once or twice a week, a few times a month, for about 7 months, 7 or 8 months out of the year, right? So again, team building is critical. When people know each other in a t-shirt and blue jeans, they will fight for each other when they hop on the ball field suited up in their jerseys. So team build, be okay with it, take the time for it, because it is absolutely worth your time as a coaching staff. to make sure your guys, your girls know each other better off the field. All right. And then the last thing is just mindfulness. I would say, and just encourage your players to practice mindfulness and general relaxation. I would say, to be able to manage the stress levels that come with our game. Okay, our game is a failure sport. We all know that, especially when it comes to offense. And so because of that, we want to be able to be, to who can get to the finish line first in terms of managing the stress the best. And the player who can pick themselves up off the mat after striking out 2-3 times in a row and come back and do damage, that's big. I saw it in a minor league game tonight where the Nashville Sounds minor league game, they're an affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers, and guy strikes out 3 times, first 3 at bats. Fourth at bat drops a bomb, right? If he's in his head at all in that fourth at bat, mind you, he's facing a reliever throwing 95, 96, okay, with a slider and a change piece that drops down into the low 80s, right? So he doesn't get an opportunity to be in his head about the previous 3 at bats, right? Now, again, he may not always drop the home run on the fourth at bat. You guys know it doesn't work like that. But my point is that you have to be ready for the next at bat, because that is the most important at bat of the game, is your next at bat, right? Lean into it, jump on it, and give it all you got, right? That's where that mental preparation comes into play. You can spend time with that coaching staff, with your players in the off season and in the preseason, making sure that they are absolutely ready mentally to go out and compete at the highest level possible. Guys, listen, let me tell you, this has been so much fun going through with you. I hope I didn't speed through it too fast, but obviously I'm sure you guys can slow it down if you need to, or speed me up or whatever. But yo, this has been a blast to share with you. My thought you should know moment here is very simple as always. Go support the game, okay? Yes, at the highest of levels, but go support the little leaguers out there, man. Watching the Little League World Series, softball and baseball this summer has just reminded me that we need to go to find the local rec department, man, and just go support, cheer them on, because those guys and those gals, I'm sure, would love that, right? That they would love to see other players, other fans of our game showing love in a much deserved way, and hopefully you'll be able to make a difference in somebody's life in that way as well. So anyway, guys, with that being said, as you know, please, we're gonna wrap the show up like we always do. So please let everything you do be done in love, because at the end of the day, that is absolutely what makes this big, wonderful world go round. Thank you guys so much once again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.